I found this black rubber squeezy object with a long nozzle under the kitchen sink. When squeezed, a fine powder comes out. What is this thing? What you found is a pesticide bulb duster, also known as a puffer duster. It's a handheld tool designed to apply insecticidal dust into tight or hard-to-reach areas like wall cracks, crevices, or under baseboards. When the rubber bulb is squeezed, it releases a controlled puff of powder through the nozzle. The bent metal tip helps direct the dust exactly where it's needed, especially in confined spaces. These are commonly used to target pests like carpenter ants, cockroaches, or carpenter bees. Insects that tend to hide deep inside walls or bore into wood. Some kind of metal faucet-looking device found in the bathroom of a union hall in Lewiston, Idaho. What is this? What you found is an old wall-mounted ashtray, commonly installed in public restrooms and smoking areas during the mid-20th century. The metal bowl with the central slot was used to extinguish and dispose of cigarettes. After dropping a cigarette into the slot, users could push a nearby button, like the red knob on the wall, to release the contents into a concealed container below, keeping the top surface clean and odor-free. These ashtrays were especially common in government buildings, hospitals, airports, and meeting halls back when indoor smoking was widespread. We found this brass object while sorting through items in an old house that belonged to a Japanese family for several generations. It has two parts, no stamps or markings, weighs 148 grams, and features an engraved scene. The welds are very precise. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an antique Chinese smoking pipe, traditionally used for smoking tobacco or opium. These pipes were common in China from the Qing dynasty through the early 20th century, and were frequently made from brass or copper, with detailed engravings that reflected the cultural and artistic styles of the time. The design typically includes a tall, narrow chamber and a detachable stem. Opium or tobacco would be placed in a small bowl, heated with a flame, and the smoke would pass through water stored in the base before being inhaled through the mouthpiece. Such pipes varied greatly depending on the social status of the user. Wealthier individuals owned more ornate versions with scenes, dragons, or floral motifs like the one you found. Dear viewers, if you enjoy our videos, please subscribe to the channel and give this one a thumbs up. It influences the YouTube algorithm and the video gets promoted more effectively. Thank you. I found this heavy iron object in an old 1940s dairy barn. It weighs about 10 to 15 pounds, has a ribbed surface, and a sort of handle. The cross-section is triangular, even though that's not visible in the photo. Any idea what it is? What you found is most likely a clinker breaker from an old coal-burning stove. These heavy cast iron components were installed in a row across the bottom of the firebox and used to manage the buildup of clinkers, hardened lumps of ash and slag that form during combustion. The rib design allowed the piece to rotate or rock when the handle was turned, breaking up accumulated clinkers and letting ash fall through to the ash pan below. This helped maintain airflow and improve the efficiency of the stove. Clinker breakers were common in coal furnaces, large stoves, and some industrial boilers throughout the early to mid-20th century. I found it in a can full of metal parts while moving into an old house near the Quebec border. It looks like a switch or controller of some kind. It's cast metal shaped like a woman with a hat, riveted to a long arm with a notched end. The head pivots and one side is stamped CF around an anchor, and the other, Brevet SGDG. What you found is a vintage French-style shutter dog, a decorative cast metal piece used to hold window shutters open. The figure of the woman is mounted to a pivoting arm that would catch into a notch or strike plate to keep the shutter from swinging closed. The inscription Brevet SGDG stands for Brevet sans garantie du gouvernement, meaning patented without government guarantee. A marking commonly found on French-made hardware between the mid-19th and mid-20th centuries. The anchor mark with CF likely refers to the manufacturer. I found this small metal cylinder in the wall of an 1800s house. It has a little flap and a lever on the side. What is it? What you found is the mouthpiece of a speaking tube, also known as a voice pipe. an early form of mechanical intercom used in homes, offices, and ships during the 19th and early 20th centuries. The device worked by transmitting sound through a pipe using only air pressure and no electricity. The small flap could be opened to speak into the cone-shaped mouthpiece, and the lever or whistle on the side was frequently used to alert someone at the other end. Speaking tubes were common in affluent homes of the 1800s, allowing residents to communicate between floors or with servants without the need for bells or physical movement. Although eventually replaced by the telephone, speaking tubes remained in use in certain settings for many years, including ships, trains, and even luxury automobiles. In my closet, I found these thin ivory plates labeled with the days of the week, but I don't understand what they are or what they're used for. Any ideas? What you found is a Victorian-era aide-memoire, a personal note-taking device used during the 19th century. These small hinged plates, commonly made from ivory or bone, were carried by women and sometimes by men to jot down appointments or reminders with a pencil. The writing could later be wiped clean and reused. This particular style, with one plate for each weekday, was common among upper-class women and was usually worn on a chatelaine, a decorative chain worn at the waist that held useful household tools and accessories. The absence of a Sunday plate wasn't unusual, as Sunday was traditionally reserved for rest or religious observance, and no appointments were scheduled. I found this while going through my parents' estate. It's old, rusty, and definitely looks like some kind of antique. I've never seen anything like it before. Any idea what it might be? What you found is a Varney folding candlestick, a patented antique candlestick holder designed to fold flat for easy transport or storage. It dates back to the early 20th century and was granted a United States patent in 1911 to Nathan Varney. When unfolded, one side serves as the base and the central arm holds the candle. These were typically made of iron and used by travelers, soldiers, or outdoorsmen who needed portable light. The sharp spikes on the base were meant to anchor it securely into wood, the ground, or even the side of a crate or wall. I found this blue disc in a bag of sour cream crisps. It says Ferris 25mm BST Cert number 213026B. Does anyone know what this is? What you found is a metal detector test chip designed to simulate a contaminant in food production. It contains ferrous metal and is passed through metal detectors during routine quality control checks. If the system fails to detect it, the production line must be stopped immediately. Each chip is individually numbered and carefully tracked. After testing, all chips must be accounted for. Finding one inside a sealed bag indicates that a critical safety check was either missed or failed, something that constitutes a serious breach of food safety protocols. I came across this strange, bumpy growth on a tree while hiking in Sweden. It was about 20 centimeters wide, felt hard to the touch, and started dripping liquid when I tapped it. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a type of polypore fungus, and the droplets on its surface are caused by a natural process known as guttation. This typically occurs in young or actively growing fungi when internal fluids are pushed out through surface pores, forming visible beads of moisture. The species in your photo is most likely Faucet-Like panicola, commonly known as the red-belted conch. It's a widespread wood decay fungus found across the northern hemisphere, especially on coniferous trees. In its early stages, it can appear swollen and moist, like in your image, but over time it hardens into a more typical shelf-like form. I found these small glass squares alongside a large set of engineering diagrams for a missile guidance system. They're about 5/16 of an inch wide, very thin, and marked with handwritten numbers. The color shifts depending on how you hold them. Any idea what these are? What you found are photo masks used in the early manufacturing of integrated circuits. These glass squares contain patterned layers that were part of the photolithography process used to build microchips in the 1960s and 1970s. The patterns were originally created by hand at a much larger scale using rubylith, a red masking film applied to clear acetate and then photographically reduced and transferred onto these small glass masks. Light would pass through the transparent sections to etch the microscopic patterns onto silicon wafers, layer by layer. Each mask represents a different layer in the chip's architecture and was essential for producing precise functional circuitry. The serial numbers suggest they were archived for reference or possibly used in limited production runs, maybe even for military or aerospace applications considering where they were found. It's a clear glass imperial quart bottle filled with liquid and some kind of wooden structure inside. My mother says her father found it in a house he bought in Victoria, Australia in 1951. He kept it in his study for decades, but nobody in our family knows what it is. What is this thing? What you found is known as a god in a bottle or crucifixion bottle, a devotional piece of folk art that symbolically represents the crucifixion of Jesus. These bottles typically contain a wooden cross along with usually elements of the Passion, such as a ladder, a spear, or nails. This tradition was especially common in 19th century Irish Catholic communities and later spread to other parts of the world, including Australia, through the Irish diaspora. Some bottles were filled with water or oil, while others remained dry or were filled with particles similar to those found in a snow globe. These objects were sometimes used as protective talismans, much like witch bottles, or simply kept as religious keepsakes. I found this strange gold object with spinning parts and a small knob while cleaning out my grandparents' basement. What is it? What you found is a brass toothpaste tube squeezer, a decorative mechanical tool used to squeeze out every last bit from a tube of toothpaste, ointment, or lotion. The flattened end of the tube slides into the rollers, and turning the knob gradually winds it up, pushing the contents toward the opening. I found these decorative glass vials in a box that belonged to a deceased elderly woman. What are they? What you found is a set of decorative perfume bottles, commonly known as Egyptian perfume bottles. These elegant glass containers were traditionally used to hold and apply perfume before spray atomizers became popular. Each bottle is typically handcrafted and commonly decorated with gilded accents, colored glass, and intricate detailing. The pointed stoppers serve both as lids and applicators. The tip of the stopper would be dipped into the perfume and then used to dab it onto the skin. These bottles are still produced today, especially in Egypt, and are popular as souvenirs, collectibles, or vanity decor. In the last video, I challenged you to figure out what this item is. Quite a few people shared their guesses, and most of you got it right. It's a cap bomb. You place a cap in the end, throw it, and it makes a loud pop when it hits the ground. Thanks to everyone who shared their guesses, and a special shout out to Michael's Angle for being the first to identify it correctly. Now I want to invite you to identify another mysterious object. This metal piece punctured a tire while driving on a residential road. It's about 3 inches long and feels slightly heavy for its size. What do you think this item is? Leave your guesses in the comments and I'll reveal the answer in the next video. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. I hope you found it interesting. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and lets more people discover the channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.